This May, Kingstree, South Carolina becomes a place of remembrance and reflection. Join us for a powerful two-day commemoration marking the 60th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1966 call to march on ballot boxes. Together, we honor the past, examine the promise, and shape the future. Friday, May 8th and Saturday, May 9th, 2026. For more information, contact C. Williams Rush at 803-397-1859.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's war update, the war report. I know it's a little late, but this is the war report for today, which is, that's the wrong one. Today is March 8th. Let me edit this a little bit. That's live production for you, baby. All right, there we go. That's a little better right there. For today, March 8th, 2026. Again, you know the drill. Please, if this is your first time here, we welcome you. We ask that you please hit the like button, subscribe to everybody over there on YouTube, and hit that follow button on Facebook. Let's get into what the situation is on the ground right now. There have been new airstrikes that have taken place overnight in Tehran. Overnight Israeli airstrikes hit fuel storage facilities in Tehran, sending large flames into the sky and signaling a new phase of the war. Every day they're coming up saying that same thing, a new phase of the war. Israeli leadership sorry about this phone. We turn it down here a second real fast. Israeli leadership says there are many surprises coming in the next stage of the campaign. The conflict began February 28th when the U.S. and Israel launched a coordinated strike against Iran, targeting leadership, military bases, and infrastructure. And you all know that within that time frame, that attack, that the Ayatollah was killed with some other leadership, some other key figures in leadership. Okay. And of course, as expected, Iran retaliated with a barrage of missiles all over the region, to include Dubai, which has become a favorite spot for Americans to go and vacation at. Reports say multiple missile barrages were launched within the last 24 hours, with air defenses intercepting many of them. That's a big point that people are bringing up about this war, is that they're saying that it's going to be a war of attrition, and that if this war continues for a protracted period of time, that Israel is going to suffer because it will not be able to stop the onslaught of missiles that Iran is launching, because Iran is able to produce more missiles than the defense systems that the Israelis and these other people use to protect themselves against these missiles. Iran has also struck or attempted to strike against U.S. bases and allies in the Gulf countries. The embassies over in those regions are being attacked, and a lot of Americans, about 2 million Americans, are actually stuck in that region over there. Won't be able to make it back right now. while all this is going on. Okay. And again, the gas prices, you guys, you know it, you see it. The gas prices continue to rise because of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. And if you don't know anything about that, you see the name right there. Just Google Strait of Hormuz and educate yourself on why. Anytime they start bringing up that Strait of Hormuz, and that's why the gas prices in the U.S. escalate. Now they're talking about gas going up to as high as $200 a barrel. Keep in mind that right now it's at $90 a barrel. So think about what we're paying now. Think about what you would be paying if it actually goes to $200 a barrel, or anywhere near $200 a barrel. Again, if you're on YouTube and you're just checking it, please hit that subscribe button. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are doing our Iran war update for today, which is March 8th, 2026. Again, the Strait of Hormuz is being threatened. Ships that have come, and Iran is saying that the strait is open for everybody that's not American or Israel. And so 20% of the world's oil flows through the Straits of Hormuz. And anytime there is a war in that region and ships get threatened, we pay the price. Iran-backed forces attacked an oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz. Shipping traffic through the strait has largely stopped because of security fears. Since about 20%, like I said earlier, of the global oil normally passes through this route, the disruption is shaking global energy markets and shaking yours and my pockets. And as you get up and go to work tomorrow, you keep in mind this information, so you're like, damn, the price was just this yesterday. Why is it this today? And so you have the information right there. Again, we're already feeling the impacts at the pump, you know. And guess what? Republicans, Democrats, black, white, Jew, Gentile, everybody's feeling the pinch if you're buying gas out here. And the political tension is continued to escalate because Iran says they're not surrendering, and the president of the United States is calling for total surrender. And I don't know if you guys understand what total surrender means. Total surrender is it doesn't look good. Total surrender happens when you drop the nuclear bomb, like America did when they dropped the bomb on during the World War II. Political tension again is growing. Iran's president rejected U.S. demands again for an unconditional surrender, calling the demands unrealistic. Meanwhile, Russia has called for an immediate ceasefire, warning the conflict could destabilize the region. I think that's the goal of what the Israelis want to do in that region, and that's what they've gotten, and that's what they got right now. So with war, there comes death. And let's get this up here. And the numbers, you know what they say, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. And so here we are. Casualties so far indicate that 1,200 plus killed in Iran, hundreds killed in Lebanon, at least 10 civilians killed in Israel. And I think the count is up to 10 U.S. soldiers, which they're going to try to skew that number because that is the worst thing that can happen for this administration right now, is the truth about what's happening with this war to come out. I got something I want to share with you guys real fast. Again, last night I said, for those who were here, ask your pastor about this whole third dome deal, right? Because again, that's super biblical, but there is a not the third the building of the third temple, and apparently, again, I don't know these things, but Jesus is the third temple. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this video right now as we get ready to get out here. Again, if you've been hanging around here this long, man, hit that like button. I'm not even going to charge you for it tonight. Okay, maybe in the future, but yeah, do that and consider becoming a subscriber. It's only 99 cents a month, and you will really help the podcast out. Again, there's gear to buy. There's it's all kinds of things that we do. And yes, the 99 cents helps. Okay. So thank you in advance very much. Also, I release videos that only subscribers can listen to. All right, and I found the video, and of course it's by my man Tucker Carlson. And yeah, because this war, you know what I mean, a lot has been said about Israel, and I mean, you got younger people saying like, hey, why are we doing this, asking questions that like I tell folks when they ask me, why did so why did they kill Charlie Kirk? You know what I mean? Was it because he was a racist? You know what I mean? No, it was because he was starting to have some views that was especially about this war. But I want you guys to listen to this and tell me what you think about it. Maybe we listen to, I don't think we got to listen to all of it. And you can go to my man Tucker Carlson's page, who, by the way, they want Tucker locked up in prison, but that's another story. Here we go.
Players involved in this war, the one happening tonight, who believe that what we're seeing on our television screens and on Twitter will usher in a series of events that begin with the destruction of the Dome in the Rock, Aqsa Mosque, and then the rebuilding of the Third Temple, after which the world will end.
All right, and to some of you, what he just said means absolutely nothing. So let me try and take some a little bit of time on this right here and show you what what he's talking about is a Muslim mosque. Okay, there it is right there. Let's pull this up. And you're like, well, what does all of this mean? Give me a minute and we'll get there. I promise you we'll get there. And because again, you've been, and not you per se now, don't get personal, but a lot of people have been, especially if you've raised Christian here in America, like most of us, you were taught in your Bible studies that if you hear pastors say this all the time, that if we bless Israel, we'll be blessed as far as America. And that has come under question here lately, because what does that mean? I guess it'd be easy for me to show you. So what I'm trying to show you now is the dome of the rock. This is the Muslim mosque that when he references that they want to have blown up, I want you to see what I'm talking about. And it is right there. And it's to the stage. All right, and there it is right there. Dome of the Rock. Okay. And apparently this is located in what is considered I guess part of Israel. But here's what the Israelis have to say about this dome on the rock. Let's remove this. Stop that. Share this. All right.
God will come back. And they mean it. And then the rebuilding of the third temple after, who believe that what we're seeing on our television screens and on Twitter will usher in a series of events that begin with the destruction of the Dome on the Rock, Aqsa Mosque, and then the rebuilding of the third temple, after which the world will end. God will come back. And they mean it. And by they, we mean literally some of the guys fighting the war. So you may have read reports today that commanders in the field of American troops, a lot of them, and who knows if this is true, but it's out there, told their troops on the eve of the outbreak of this war that we're doing this for Jesus, because it is Jesus's will that we do this, and that by doing it, we will usher in a series of events that bring about the end of history, the end of time, Armageddon, the last days. It's hard to believe that's true, especially since, by the way, there are 1 million Christians in Iran. So if you were doing this for Jesus, presumably you would go out of your way not to hurt his followers in the country you're attacking. Did the U.S. government or any government make any attempt to spare the Christians? Are we making an attempt tonight? Of course we're not. And of course, when the smoke clears, ultimately we will find out, just a guess, that Christians suffered disproportionately in this, as they do all wars, from the Iraq War to the bombing of Nagasaki, the seat of the Christian church in Japan, et cetera, et cetera. Christians have a way of dying disproportionately in these wars, which tells you something about their real motive. But in any case, there was a spate of stories suggesting that U.S. commanders told their troops they were doing this for some weird anti-Christian reason posing as Christianity. But it's not just the U.S. side. Here's an IDF soldier, apparently an American by his accent, describing why he's at war. Watch this.
They call this operation the Swords of Iron. But what are we really fighting for? We're fighting for the right of the Jewish people to exist, be Jewish, practice their religion, and be free. And one day our true leader will come and we'll be united as a whole Jewish nation so we can rebuild the Beit HaMikdash.
Beit HaMikdash, probably mispronouncing it. That's the Hebrew term for the temple, the third temple. We are doing this so we can rebuild the temple. Now you'll notice he's pulling off patches on Velcro on his IDF uniform. These are not civilian clothes. This is the uniform of the government of Israel, of its military. And he has patches on that uniform, one of which is a symbol of the temple, the third temple. So it just couldn't be clearer. Why are we doing this? To rebuild the third temple. Now, if you think we're just cherry picking this off the internet, one guy wearing an unauthorized temple patch, paid for, by the way, a uniform paid by us, armaments paid for by us, the U.S. taxpayer pays for all this stuff one way or another. The U.S. taxpayer pays for the military of Israel. Boy, does it. If you think we're being unfair and just like found one guy, well, here's a bunch of guys. It took us about 2 minutes on the internet to find this today. Here is a selection of IDF soldiers. Let's put it on the screen. There you go. And all of them have the same patch. Look for me. Look carefully at that. What is that? That's the temple. That is the third temple. And we'll get to in a minute about how this might actually happen and what it would mean for the rest of the world. And just to be clear, these are conversations that most Americans, certainly me included, never wanted to have. Everybody's religious beliefs, sincere religious beliefs, when held up to the light of the rational world, to the man-made world, seem a little spooky and crazy, which is one of the reasons that in the culture some of us grew up in, we don't talk about them in public because they're personal. They're the most personal part of a person. So it is without judgment, by the way, that we're airing this, okay? just describing it because it is significant to the future of the world, to the future of this war, and to our future as Americans. So how exactly did the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, a military that the U.S. taxpayer pays for, that lots of wealthy Americans send money to friends of the IDF, how did all these guys wind up wearing patches suggesting the point of this war was the destruction of one of the holiest places in Islam and the rebuilding of a temple that is totally anathema to Christianity? Like, how did this happen? Well, there are a lot of ways it happened. The main way it happened is because no one in the United States noticed, because it's such a secular place. And as noted, we have eyes but can't see and ears and can't hear. But this has been going on a long time in public through, in part, the efforts of a group called Chabad, C-H-A-B-A-D. And you may know people who give money to Chabad or run into Chabad, super nice people, engage in all kinds of charitable activities, drug rehab. There's a lot about Chabad that's really good. But what is Chabad exactly? Well, Chabad, you can look it up, is a very old organization, about 250 years old. And it's a branch of Hasidic Judaism. It's an organization that was overseen for many years by a guy called Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who was famously in Brooklyn, considered the Messiah by some of his followers, who was a friend of presidents, or certainly someone presidents visited. He was a very powerful man in the Orthodox and the Hasidic community. And he was the overseer of Chabad, which predated him and outlasted him, but he was its most visible ambassador. And Chabad has been pushing in a pretty subtle way, unless you look carefully, for the reconstruction of the Third Temple. And it seems like, from the reading we did recently, that those patches actually came from Chabad. In any case, Chabad is pushing for the building of the Third Temple. But it's not just Hasidic groups from Brooklyn, and it's not just IDF soldiers.
And so, like, you sat in church today and you said, Jesus, you ready for Jesus to come? These folks are actively trying to bring this back, is what he's talking about, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. Let's go.
There are amazingly a lot of American evangelical leaders, Christian Zionists, whose main point is rebuilding the Third Temple. Now, how could an American Christian or any Christian call for the building of a temple whose inherent presence denies Christ, who said clearly, and Christians believe this, it's a core point of faith, I am the temple. You want to speak to God, you speak through me. That's Christianity. That's the whole religion right there. So if you're a Christian preacher calling for the rebuilding of the Third Temple, you kind of missed the whole point.
All right. So I'm not a preacher, and neither is Tucker. So I need my theologians to get in there and comment on what Mr. Carson is saying here. But gets better. Here we go.
That's more than apostasy. That's like not even knowing what the religion's about. So it's hard to believe there could be any ordained Christian leaders pushing for the rebuilding of the Third Temple. Oh, but there are a lot. There are a lot. And here's just one. This is Pastor Greg Locke. Listen to this.
The Gaza Strip, which has now been cut off by Israel, and rightly so. They should have cut them off a long time ago. I don't care how insensitive you think I am to that. There's 6 doors in this church. You can leave anytime you want to.
Wow, that sounds very Christian.
They've cut them off, electricity. They've cut off their water. They should have. Now, listen, I'm not for hurting anyone that's innocent, but anybody that supports terrorism is not innocent.
And just because you said that,
that
makes them a terrorist. I'm sorry, y'all. Let's go back and listen to Pastor again.
And rightly so. They should have cut them off a long time ago. I don't care how insensitive you think I am to that. There's 6 doors in this church. You can leave anytime you want to. They've cut them off, electricity. They've cut off their water. They should have. Now, listen, I'm not for hurting anyone that's innocent, but anybody that supports terrorism is not innocent. You understand that? Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week. Destroy the whole thing. What they ought to do is evacuate up there on the hill and get a great big missile and blow that wicked dome of the rock plumb off of the spot where it's standing right now, so we can get that Third Temple rebuilt and usher in the coming of Jesus.
Boy, it is embarrassing and shameful as an American Christian to hear that and to know that video is from a few years ago. It's been on the internet. No one bothered to highlight it. Most people weren't even aware this was going on. Oh, it's definitely going on. These are very common views. Seems obvious that Mike Huckabee has them, that a lot of the Christian Zionists, John Hagee.
So yeah, what's going on, man? You know what I mean? And this is what that pastor was talking about, clearing this parking lot right here. But you won't hear your politicians criticize this, left or right. They'll talk about Donald Trump, but you won't hear them say nothing about the Israelis. And they damn near, I mean, all they got to do is clean it off now. And there's your parking lot right there. Now, don't let the fact that human beings live there, okay? Don't let that, you know what I mean, just put a label on, just put a label on him. Put a label on this kid right here. He's a terrorist. If he's not, he'll grow up to be one. And I mean, that's the philosophy. And if you disagree with that, then you're anti-Semite. Okay? If you look at these pictures and you think the images in these pictures are wrong, you're an anti-Semite. What's going on, Jose, Athena? And I appreciate everybody that checked in this evening for the war report. So let's finish this off right now. Give me your thoughts on that video with old Tucker Carlson, America. He's the, and I guess with the cleric dead, not the cleric, excuse me, with the Ayatollah dead, that makes Tucker the #1 anti-Semite. So let's get down to the bottom line of what we're now seeing. Direct war between Iran, the U.S., and Israel. Okay, or should I say Israel and the U.S., whatever. Missile exchanges and airstrikes are escalating daily. The oil markets and the global shipping is disrupted. Growing risk of larger regional war happening every day. And again, if some of those missiles start to get through and Israel starts to absorb casualties, we'll see. America doesn't have the stomach for what I think is coming. Okay, we haven't had it in any of these regime change wars, from Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Libya, Syria, you name it. But the bottom line, technically yet, it's not a world war, but it's the largest direct conflict involving Iran in decades. And Iran's not known for starting wars. Now, if I'm wrong, get in the comment section and cite to me where they've started a war, where they're on record for starting wars. I'm not saying that they haven't, but just in recent history, I don't think they've been out. Now, you could say, hey, Hezbollah, Hamas, I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever. You guys have a good